We'll get to Ron McGill here in a second. We're going to do 2 segments with him because Dragonfly Jones from Twitter is doing a beast bracket on his Jenkins and Jones podcast where he pits animals against each other, and this is Ron McGill's specialty. People love asking Ron McGill those questions. We will get to that in a second as well. But before we do so, Stugotz, once again, has taken his rightful space as the owner of the take. Sometimes a tie is good. Sometimes a tie is to be celebrated. He sees that people are mad at the U.S. women for settling for a tie that allows them to advance in the World Cup.
I don't get it. This wasn't, the elimination stage, the World Cup stage. This was the group stage. And what they needed to get out of that group and into the must-win stage is a tie. And they got it done.
But they don't look good, Stugotz. Like, that's not a team that they should be playing to a tie.
They look like they advanced. That's what they look like, yes.
They were celebrating that they advanced, but more than that, they were celebrating that they avoided what would have been considered the biggest upset in the history of Women's World Cup.
All right, so sometimes you celebrate relief, you celebrate a tie, you celebrate advancing. That's what they did. They had every right to celebrate today, and no one should be criticizing what that team in particular has done.
The United States had played 10 previous matches against Portugal on the women's side. The U.S. had won all 10 by a combined score of 39-0. They came 2 inches from being beaten, and it would have been you can't even overemphasize how big an upset it would have been. Now, having said that, Portugal's much better. They were ranked number 21 in the world. They're not terrible. And the past 4 matches versus the U.S. had been decided by only 1 goal. So a close game was not a shock, but it would have been a stunning upset had the U.S. lost. And they were cheering in relief that they avoided that.
I'm okay with that. Like, most times relief feels fantastic,
Right.
and you celebrate relief.
You're allowed to be happy that you advance.
Right.
Carly Lloyd didn't like it.
No, and she and the coach of the team roundly criticized her for saying that it was insane to question their motivation. I don't think you want to question the heart of a team or an effort level when it comes to the World Cup. But there's no question right now that this American team is not playing like the team that won the past 2 World Cups. And if they have the performance against Sweden that they had earlier this morning, they're going to get their ass kicked. They could lose by multiple goals.
Is it more injury or more the world has caught up, if you had to choose one of the reasons?
Both things. Team
in transition.
They are injured. You could field certainly a knockout stage level team with the amount of injuries that they've had. It's unfortunately a huge part of the women's game. The injuries to their bodies seem to happen more and in more devastating fashion than it does to the men's game, and there's a lot of factors for that: biology and playing surfaces. It is a team in transition. The old guard is going away. The names like Rapinoe are still around, but not taking an active role. Alex Morgan, same deal. This is a new generation of really superlative talent, but the rest of the world has also caught up. Title IX gave the United States a huge leg up in the women's game, but a lot of really big brands, a lot of really huge clubs are pumping resources into women's sides. Real Madrid just straight up bought an existing team so they could skip starting the infrastructure. You have Lyon, which is a titan. Chelsea has arguably the best women's player on the planet in Sam Kerr. Arsenal. These are huge brands that many male football fans will just gravitate to that same brand, and there's actual money being pumped into that, and people are seeing a sustainable revenue stream, whereas here in the United States, a professional women's league, it's been a sordid history. It's been hard to actually sustain it over there, so the rest of the world is catching up, and I imagine the U.S.'s dominance is probably a tale for yesteryear, and this World Cup is showing, henceforth, there's going to be a lot more parity.
Wow. Coach Vlatko on the hot seat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially
I mean,
not even so much for today, but
to be.
for what he did against the Netherlands.
Did he make subs last night?
You know what?
That was the big criticism.
A tie requires perspective, okay? Today it doesn't feel so great, but when they win the World Cup, they'll look back and say, what a tie. It requires vision and perspective, 2 things I am the best at.
Are you feeling okay? You're cool
know.
with this tie. It's a weird take.
It's a good tie. There are good ties.
No, Chris, you haven't been paying attention. Stugotz has been the world's greatest advocate for the tie. In football every year, when there is a tie, he continues to
Frank
tell
Reich.
you.
I mean.
Look, see what I'm saying? He has cornered the market. He has said the way to my future in this business is just argue on behalf of the tie more zealously than everyone else.